with Muslim Youth Initiative, Muslims in Rail, Sprott Project, Young Professionals Network, and Muslim Youth Network. My name is Akhtar Hussain. I am a Muslims in Rail champion, as well as a system engineer for Network Rail and their STEM ambassador. So this morning's session is the law session. Thank you all for joining us. We're currently broadcasting live from the Sprott Project HQ in glamorous Surrey Quays, London. We currently have 3 of our eagerly awaited pupil barristers. Thank you for joining us this morning. Who will shortly be introducing themselves and giving us a bit of background to their route to the bar and some interesting stories. This is the important part. So you guys make this session, as the best it is. So we want you to be interactive. We want you to start thinking about questions you want to ask, questions about route to the bar and law. And we would like you to come on the mic, on the camera, and ask us the questions so everybody can be interested in this. So please think about this. So think about your questions you want to raise and think about what you're going to ask. We have our tech man, Nick Mal, in the background, who'll be helping us unmute and mute the mics. As you can see, I'm a bit of arm's length at this. So you guys make this session what it is. So please, I encourage everyone to participate. So without further ado, we'll go to our first panelist. Who would like to go first? I think ladies first. I think I will go to Hafsa first, and hopefully we'll take you from there.
Well, thanks so much for that introduction. Hi everyone, and lovely to meet you all virtually, and thanks for joining this careers fair on a Sunday morning. You're already showing a great dedication to your future careers, which is a good mindset to have at this stage. So I'm Hafsa. I studied law at the University of Leeds, and I graduated in 2018. I then did the bar course and a master's in law, and I graduated in 2019, and then I was called to the bar. So I'm technically an unregistered barrister at the moment, and that means I've completed the academic side of training to be a barrister, and now I need to complete the last stage, which is called pupillage. And alongside this, I'm also just joined the committee of young legal aid lawyers, which kind of represent the interests of the really junior end of the profession that work in legal aid areas. And I contribute to a platform called Human Rights Pulse, and I also do some youth work with Leeds Muslim Youth Forum. So that's why I was quite interested in taking part today and helping to connect with young Muslims and hopefully inspire you. And if you have any questions about anything in particular, I'm more than happy to answer them. And it's nice to kind of get involved in things outside of your academic lives, especially when it comes to Muslim youth engagement. So I could talk a bit more about that as well, not just law if you're interested. And I do a little bit of prosecution work at the moment whilst I'm applying for pupillage. And I do some assistance with cases that barristers need preparation, like a research assistant. And in the question and answer section, again, I can go into more detail about any of those stages, but I think it would be best to talk about what kind of inspired me to go into this area of law and some tips along the way that you might find interesting. So initially, I was quite interested in studying English literature. I got some experience with a solicitor when I was applying for university, and I thought my A-level choices, which were history, English literature, and psychology, were quite relevant to law, and I thought about other careers outside of this. I still really love literature. It's something that I do in my own time, but it's something that I wanted to bring up at the start to say that it's fine if you change your mind or you're not too sure at this point. That's what career fairs like this are about. It's to try out different things, and don't feel worried if you're not sure about what you want to do. It's good to actually experience a few different things as well, and don't feel pressure to kind of make a choice at this stage. Because I didn't know at the start, but now I can't imagine doing anything other than law. But your interests do evolve, especially the age between 16 to 25. You will change your mind a lot about what you want to specialise in as well. So that's perfectly fine. And then during my degree, the School of Law at Leeds University is quite good at engaging with the local law firms and the local bar in bringing in speakers and judges to kind of talk about their route to the career. And that's a really good time to just explore what it is you actually want to do. A lot of people in my year were interested in being commercial solicitors. The bar and the barrister route was actually spoken about that much. That's mainly because in corporate law, they do have graduate recruitment departments and brochures and things like that to help people make up their minds, but barristers mainly are self-employed unless you work in like an in-house role or for the government. So there's not as much availability there in terms of promotions, but there are fairs that you can go to and other ways of finding out. But if you're kind of thinking about why there isn't that much out there for the barrister profession, that's probably because of the difference in the self-employed aspect and the resources to actually go into schools. But a lot more work has been done around that, and I can talk a bit about that later with the Inns of Court. And yeah, I went to a lot of law fairs and researched different things. And in case you're not aware, there's things related from human rights to government law to charities law and everything in between. And it's really good to kind of take the time to research different areas. But again, don't worry if you're not too sure yet. I'm interested in criminal law and human rights and also family. And you can also specialize later in your career. And then throughout studying, I saw quite a lot of interesting cases. So I was able to kind of sit in court on a drugs case and a murder trial, other offences like perverting the course of justice, like serious assault cases, things like Leeds Crown Court, and also the Old Bailey, which is another name for London Central Criminal Court. And if anyone is around that area, probably a lot of you are if you are kind of joining from the London schools that I signed up for today, then I would encourage you to maybe go on an afternoon or a weekend to see a court case. It might just be romance on Saturdays, but at the Old Bailey, there's the most serious cases. They do let law students go in and sit in the public gallery, and that will really give you a flavour of the types of cases at the most serious end. And if you get a feel for what the barristers do and advocate in court, and you see them in their wigs and gowns, and it's a really great experience. And that's what helped me, I think, to decide that that's what I want to do in the future. And I just went to my local Leeds court, but then as I got a bit more established in my degree, I just arranged work experience with barristers that work all over the country, and you get to see a real mix of cases. I'm happy to talk a bit more about the actual trials as well, if you're interested in knowing about some serious crimes that have taken place recently. And or just something else I wanted to mention that kind of is like a last point is that don't feel like just because you're pursuing your career and you're finding out things that you can't actually use your voice at the same time and have confidence in asking for things, and just being confident in recognizing that you do have a voice and a platform and people will want to listen. I recently appeared on BBC Question Time at Under 30's election special, and I decided to ask the panel and the government ministers about their commitment to like legal aid and supporting lawyers, and those are kind of most vulnerable in society. And I wanted to say that as kind of representing the junior end of the profession, but also just speaking up for people's rights. And a lot of law is about just that. It's about having confidence in using your voice, speaking up for other people. And that doesn't just need to be in the courtroom or at a law firm. It can be in what you do outside of this. So outreach work and, empowering the next generation. All of those things will help you on your journeys in whatever academic career you go into. So that's just a really quick overview of kind of how I got interested in law and what I'm doing at the moment. I hope you feel a little bit more inspired about just the range of things that are out there, but also not to feel that you have to make any commitment or decision at this point. But yeah, happy to answer any further questions, and thanks for inviting me to take part in this. I want to stick around till the end, and I was just seeing a question pop up. I'll just answer that now as I'm it's still just finishing off. So have you mentioned the starting salary? It's quite a range. So well, okay, it depends on the area of law that you want to go into. The criminal law that people at the junior end, it's not what you might expect. It's like you're paid by your chambers, and it could be anywhere between 12 to 15 in your first year in criminal law, and then it increases as you guarantee your earnings. So yeah, the answer is that it's quite a range, but as you get more established and you take on cases, the more you work, then the more you will earn. So it's definitely a sliding scale. It just depends on the area of law that you go into.
Afsa, thank you very much for that. That was an amazing account of what you've given, and you're going to be eager, and you've already started answering questions. What we'll do is let all the panelists, do their presentation, then we'll take Q&As at the end. But thanks for answering that question straight away. I'll pose the questions to you. Hopefully, if I can one day all come onto my screen. I've got a nice team working in the background. So thanks for that encounter. It was really good, especially good to hear about the drugs cases that you're working on. What we'll do is I will now hand over to Maqsood al-Islam. Hopefully, he'll give us an update on what he's been up to and his route to the bar. Over to you, Max. You're on mute, Max, by the way.
Are you able to hear me now?
I can hear you and see you, brother.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I'll go back slightly back to my A levels because there might be others who are younger on listening in. So my A levels, I studied sciences primarily. So I did chemistry, biology. I also studied English and business because although I was interested in a career in law, science was something that I was interested in academically. I thereafter went on to study law at the University of Birmingham, and then I went on to study a postgraduate course at the University of Oxford. I studied bioethics, which is an amalgamation of biomedical sciences together with philosophy. That was just an academic interest of mine. It wasn't with a view to pursuing a career at the bar or in law generally. Thereafter, I studied the bar professional training course at the University of Law in Birmingham. I then worked for a very short period at DAC Beechcroft, which is a tier 1 insurance firm. I worked as a paralegal to begin with, and then I qualified as a lawyer because I enjoyed the job. I then moved on to Evershed Sutherland, where I practiced in banking litigation. I also moved to Mills and Reeve, where I practiced across 4 or 5 different areas. I'm not going to bore you with the details. Subsequent to that, because I had a bit of a client following, I practiced as a sole practitioner. I was also an advocate, a self-employed advocate. I studied in between working. I studied my master's in law at the University of Law in Birmingham. I am at present a pupil barrister at Clark's Chambers. I'm in the final 2 months of my pupillage. I specialise in civil and commercial. I am a civil barrister through and through. That is all I know, and that is all I've been doing. In terms of a career highlight, if I could pick one out, and I know Akhtar will definitely like this one, I had the opportunity and pleasure of representing Steven Gerrard. So picture a situation where it's 4:45 in the afternoon, office hours, of course, you know, the end of the office days after 5 o'clock. I get told that I have a conference call with Rangers Football Club. I go down to the conference room with my colleague, and then on the other end of the phone, you've got Steven Gerrard. It was a really good, interesting case about the transfer of players. It wasn't a litigation matter. It was more of an advisory role to do with the Scottish FA to justify why Steven Gerrard is buying an African player as opposed to a homegrown talent from the Scottish leagues. So in a nutshell, that's who I am and what I do. If you have any questions, do put this in the Q&A or the chat box, and I'll be happy to answer. If you have any other questions, given that I've been at both ends of the profession, I've been a solicitor, and now I'm going on to qualifying as a barrister. If I can assist in any way, I will. And thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to, in fact, be here and share my story.
Maqsood, thank you very much for your account. You're right about the interest in the Steven Gerrard and your, as you can probably, not many people can tell I'm an avid Liverpool fan. Maybe that might go down in the ratings, but we don't know. But thanks for that. Really good, interesting. It's an interesting case of diversity and inclusion here when it comes to that case that you're talking to about Steven Gerrard and recruiting the African player versus you know, the homegrown talent. So you get that a lot in industry. Now, thank you for that account. Thank you for your time that you've given. We'll move on to our next sister, Fatima Laher, who's on standby. Hopefully she can give us a nice account of herself, and then we can start going into the Q&A. Some questions have started coming in, and we've got some questions in the chat box. Please put the questions in the Q&A box. It's just easier for us to filter. And then we'll take it from there. So Fatima, take it away, please.
Good morning, everyone. So I'm Fatima. I actually qualified as a barrister quite recently, and I will be starting my pupillage soon with the Crown Prosecution Service in a few weeks. So this is where we'll be prosecuting all the criminal offences cases that come through. So my route to the bar is probably quite different to the panel today. I actually wanted to be a dentist. So initially, all my A-levels were all science-based. I did biology, chemistry, psychology, and IT. And all my experiences, all my actual experiences that I undertook were all medical based. I had absolutely no interest in the law. And I was actually accepted onto a dentistry degree and was offered a place at University of Leeds. And just before the start date, that is when I actually started to think about my career. I started to think, what do I actually want for my future? Am I actually interested in dentistry, or am I simply being pushed by that? Because I came from a family whose everyone in my family had a medical background, so I was automatically pushed into that. And that's when I realized that this was simply not a passion for me, it was a passion for my family. And that's when I took a step back. I then decided to look at different avenues, look at where my interest lay, and just by simply speaking to people, doing some work experience in different areas, I then was actually introduced to law by a friend. And at the time, during my A-levels, I probably would never have thought that I'd be studying law and actually qualified as barrister, but here I am. So I did do some work experience in a criminal defense firm, and for me that was an eye-opener. I immediately realized that this is what I want to do. This is where I want to be. At that time, I wanted to prosecute, even though I was defending at the time. I wanted to prosecute criminal cases. I wanted to be a part of the criminal justice system, and I knew that I wanted to give back to the public in this way. So I then did some research, and at that time, I'll be honest, there wasn't much help. So these initiatives, these organizations that you guys have today, it's an amazing initiative, and I can't even say that lightly, because if I had that helping hand back when I was applying, it would have massively helped. It would have taken that burden off me to actually research for myself, find people who are willing to help, which at that time probably was not as many as you would find today. So after doing some research, I completed a 3-year law degree at BPP, which is in Leeds. I then went on to complete the bar course, which is known as the BPTC. I actually incorporated this with the LLM, which is a master's, which was just over a year. And then you automatically qualify as barrister. Sorry, I missed Hafsa's part at the start, so I don't know if she mentioned pupillage. So when you want to become a barrister, you have to complete the bar course. You also have to you have to join an inn. So there's 4 inns. I joined Lincoln's Inn. And when I mean an inn, it's basically like an education provider. So they provide things like, for example, mooting, debating, and you essentially, it's like a point system. You have to earn 12 points to then be called to the bar. So some of the things that I did, which were quite exciting, was me and Hafsa, both of us, we actually went on a residential where we stayed in London in the absolute middle of nowhere, and we were staying with very senior judges of the Court of Appeal. We were staying with other very qualified and very senior barristers, and they were not just mentoring us, but we were actually performing. We were actually performing our advocacy. Then they were listening. They were providing feedback to us. And that was probably one of the biggest highlights during my education, during my career, to actually meet these senior barristers and to see how they are so willing to offer their help, to provide their advice, to provide their support to us. In terms of advice, I would say something that I said earlier, that you really have to just portray yourself as someone who is not just capable, but someone who can really stand out, someone who you can show that yes, I have all the necessary mini pupilages, which mini pupilage is essentially when you go into court and you're shadowing a barrister for say 3 or 5 days. So yes, you need to show that you have that to become a barrister. And I know that some chambers do say that it's compulsory, but what I would also say is that you need things which would make you stand out. So something that I did, which I would say is my career highlight, I actually did a legal internship in Dubai. In the Arab Emirates, and I worked in the financial crime office, and we were actually representing a member of the royal family. And that key piece of experience for me had been picked up by each and every pupillage interview that I attended. And just by looking at the stats of that, it just shows that everyone has mini pupillages, everyone will go shadow judges, everyone will have good connections, you'll all have legal experiences, but just try to do something that's very different, try to do something that's going to really make you stand out. Another career highlight I would say is I was part of a very high profile murder case, which actually happened to be in my local area. And it did impact many lives in my local community. And just to be a part of that really made me feel that this is what I want to do. This is why I pursued a career in law. And this is why I'm pursuing this area of law in particular, criminal law. In terms of progression, I can only speak about CPS themselves, and I can honestly say it's plenty. So once I complete my pupillage, pupillage is a 12-month contract, if you want to say it like that. You have 6 months of shadowing, so you're shadowing your mentor, your barrister, and then your second 6 months, you're on your own, you're on your feet, you're in the magistrates' courts, and you're fighting your own criminal cases. So that's once the pupillage is then complete, you then get the title of what's called a Crown Prosecutor. And then on, it's just career progression every year. So you can then go on to Senior Crown Prosecutor, you can then go on to a Crown Advocate, a Deputy Crown Advocate, Crown Advocate, and it just keeps going on, and the bandwidths increase as you go along. What would I do differently? To be fair, I actually probably wouldn't have done anything differently. Looking back now, if I was asked to study law, I probably wouldn't have, simply because what you learn during the first year of law school, it just simply goes more into depth of what you learn during your A-levels, but from what I've heard. And in fact, my university actually told us they prefer law students coming in without any background knowledge. But of course, it's a matter for each individual student whether they feel that they should be having some experience before they start law school. I know I'm mentoring someone at A-level at the moment, and she decided she wouldn't be taking law, but she took English language and literature, which I know will massively help her. So I guess it's personal choice, but at this stage, I think at A-level stage, I think it's important to just have a really broad mind, because I changed my career path so many times, and I think just by having all that options in front of you, thinking that, I'm thinking of law, but I'm not entirely 100% sure, and I might want to slip back into, say, I don't know, medicine and dentistry, optom. So just really have that open mind. But at the same time, if you are thinking of a career in law, start thinking of what you can do now. So I know with my mentees, I have actually started them up with CPS, getting them some mentoring initiatives with them, making them actively search for work experience, because the law degree is very, very intensive, and the bar course is even more intensive, and anything that you can do now will massively help you. So whether that's securing some work placements in your local area, just simply sending your CV in to a family firm or a criminal firm, and asking, can I come in, can I shadow for 3 days? It's voluntary, and then they will be more than happy to have you on board. Other things that you could be doing right now is charity work. You could apply for the Citizens Advice. Manuel Bravo, which is another charity that I volunteered in during law school, and they actually help with victims of domestic violence. And some of the work that they do is massively rewarding. It's absolutely inspirational for the people that you actually work with. The victims, you get to go to court, you provide them, of course you'll be trained completely, but you'll be providing them not legal advice, but just practical advice. So I would definitely recommend just having a look, seeing what you can do at this stage, and just starting to build the initial steps of your career. And of course, the Muslim Youth Initiative will help you along the way. Thank you. I think you're muted.
Mute me, brother. Thank you, Fatima. I was on mute. Thank you for that. Thank you for that amazing account, and touching on the initiative that we're trying to achieve here. It's difficult. When we were younger and studying, we didn't have these avenues. So the idea of these initiatives, these careers fairs, it would be better if it was in person. It would be better if we could see you as well on the camera. But we're trying to make the best of the situation that we've got at the moment. And
yeah,
thank you for your account.
Dropping, so I thought I'd.
It's okay. I know you had a bit of trouble logging in earlier, so that's fine. We fully understand. We've got some questions coming in. Funnily enough, I don't know if you saw them, because your question, when you were giving your account of your pupillage and the route to the bar, you kind of answered some of the questions about what's a pupillage, what do you have to do, what's the difference between a barrister and a lawyer. But I'll take those questions shortly and pose them to our panel. We've had some hands up, I think. So if you do want to ask a question live to our panel, please put your hand up. And we'll unmute your mic and your camera, and you can ask the question. So please do that. So going into the Q&A now, I think you guys as a panelist can also see the Q&A segment, so pick up on any of the questions. Yeah. So Hafsa already mentioned about the starting salary. We've already covered that, so that's good. I think Fatima's also covered what's a barrister and what's pupillage. If you've got any more questions, please ask that.
Just go through that in more detail. What actually is the difference between a barrister and a
Sure, go for it.
For me, the difference, I guess the main difference here is barristers tend to represent the client more in court. They're completing more advocacy. They're on their feet, whereas a solicitor would be more office-based, and they would have much more client contact. They're building that client contact relationship with the client. They would be seeing the client in a criminal defense firm, at least. They would be seeing the client in a more daily basis, whereas the barrister may only see the client actually 5-10 minutes prior to the trial with a brief client meeting. And I think that's the main difference, is just the advocacy. It's barristers do conduct more advocacy. I know solicitors can, so without boggling anyone's mind, solicitors can actually apply for higher rights audience, and then they can appear in the lower court. But again, there is still a big difference between a solicitor and a barrister.
Thank you for that, Fatima. Appreciate it. Thank you for that. I hope that's answered that question. Another question we have, I think Maksud touched on it earlier about the route to law. There's a question that says, Salam, should I study law in university if I want to become a detective inspector, or anything specific with regards to law? And that's from Jannat Sultana. That's to Max, if you want to answer that.
Sure. I don't think it's a necessity. I mean, law, because it's such a versatile degree, you can pretty much do it and go into any other profession. But specifically for that profession, I think law would assist, because you'd have an understanding of criminal law or criminology, but I don't think it's a necessity.
Perfect. Thank you for that.
Can I just say one quick thing on that? There is another avenue. There's a direct entry inspector option. If that's what you definitely want to do, I'd really recommend to check it out. I have a link to it that I just found as you were talking. I'll just post it in the chat function, because you might not even need to go through all of those other channels anyway. But check that out if that's something that you definitely want to do. I think drop them an email, and they'll let you know. I'm sure there's no preference about degrees though. But good luck with that. Sounds really interesting.
Thank you for that, Hafsa. Since you're on the mic and answering that question, what A-levels did you do to go into law?
So I did English literature, psychology, and history. I actually was thinking about doing a history and English joint degree, I loved history. I think it depends on your teachers as well. I had a really great one, we went on a trip to Berlin, and it was really interesting, and I thought, this is what I'm going to do. But I kind of got a bit of a feel for it because my mum she went to university as a mature student. She studied literature, and I just loved all the kind of books that she'd bring back. So I kind of like vicariously got an understanding of it through that. But well, I did actually change my route a few times. I wanted to do the English course at Oxford University. I applied, I had an interview, but unfortunately I didn't receive the offer. And at that point, I was sort of at a crossroads about whether I wanted to pursue English elsewhere. I had an offer at York Uni, which was in the top 10 for English, and I thought it was a great department. But at the same time, I think that initial rejection sort of forced me to think about what I actually wanted to do, and whether it was just that course at that particular university. The interview experience was still really good, and that's something that I would stress to anyone, that if you do pursue something and you face a setback or rejection, it's not the end of your route. Sometimes it can be redirecting you to something better, and it actually helped me to decide that I wanted to study something different and keep English as a hobby. And I studied law, and stayed in Leeds, which is I'm from the north, and that's actually helped me now in kind of building my local contacts at the bar here. So things do work out in the end, and that is something that has kind of come from my A-level experience. So if you are at that point, definitely reach for the stars and where you apply, and get all the help that you can and reach out to your careers team with interview preparation. But whatever happens, don't feel disheartened, because there are so many other routes into things.
Amazing, Hafsa. Thank you for that. Thank you for giving that insight, because it just goes to show there's so many routes to what you want to achieve, or what you want to do at the end. Me being an engineer is difficult because you have to study a STEM subject in A levels. But with law, it's a bit more broader. You can do English and you can do other things. So there's no basic subject you need to have, as a minimum, which is quite helpful to know. So I can change my career maybe. I don't know. So that would be quite interesting. We've got some really deep questions here. There's an interesting one about morality. So Sister Soraya asked the question: does being Muslim affect your choice of morality? So being a Muslim barrister or lawyer, for example, in your case. So who take that question? It's quite a deep one. I'll give it to Max, I think.
Yeah,
or Fatima.
I'll take that one. No, it doesn't, because even in Islamic jurisprudence, the concept of beyond reasonable doubt, or innocent until found guilty, does exist. Barristers are subject to something known as the cab rank rule. So if you guess a case, you have to do it. You can't turn it down, unless there's something within that. And I'm sure Fatima can go into much more detail in respect to criminal law. But there is something within that where, if, for example, your client is lying or they're being dishonest, you can withdraw yourself as to professional embarrassment. Now, me being a civil barrister, I don't come across that. Unless someone's being dishonest about something that they've done, generally speaking, you're representing your client. It doesn't collide with your morality. And there is a massive difference between morality and the law. The law is being applied to the facts. Morality generally tends to be your personal opinion. It could be subjective. Islamically speaking, it's of course objective, but it's a subjective thing. I think in practice, it shouldn't collide. You're doing a professional job. You're being paid a fee for it. And the two things should be kept separate.
Thank you for that, Max.
Yeah.
Fatima, would you like to add to that? Yeah, go on.
So yeah, I took that question as, how can you represent someone who is guilty, or how can you prosecute someone who is innocent? Actually, to be fair, if I had £1 for every time someone asked me that question, I'd probably be a millionaire retired in Dubai by now.
We won't have you on here.
Yeah, because the simple answer is you don't. Like Matt said, we abide by what's called the cab rank rule, where if you know someone is guilty, you can no longer continue to represent them and deceive the crown, deceive the court by saying that, no, my client is innocent, when he's clearly not. So in terms of morality, it is a matter of judgment, but it's also a matter of looking at the evidence, getting your client's instructions. And if he says to you, I am guilty of the offence, I did commit the offence, but please, can you lie for me, and can you conduct this trial for me, and let's go on the basis that I'm innocent, when in fact he's guilty. So my position on that would be, no, I can't go forward, I can't deceive the crown, I can't go against the court, and my book would stop there. So in terms of morality, I actually don't think there's an issue. There's only two flip sides that I would see is whether you go into defense or whether you go into prosecution work. Of course, when you're defending the defendant. And in some cases, it can, as a female, young female going into the bar, it is quite daunting, particularly with when you get so many sex offences in your local area. It is difficult. Whereas when you're prosecuting, of course, you're prosecuting against the defendant, you're representing the victim. So I guess it is a matter of preference, where you feel that your interests lie, where you feel your morality lies in a way. But either way, if someone says they're guilty, it stops there. We either take them to court and we get them sentenced, or you no longer represent them and then send them their way.
Brilliant. Thank you for that account. Yeah, it's definitely a morality check. You got to do what your profession requires you to do, and your qualification requires you to do. So you can't go against that. Interesting. Going on that same theme, any social barriers during your achievements in your career? I think being BAME and Muslim, it's always one of the cases. It's always up there, chip on the shoulder kind of thing. But it's in every industry. It's always there. So it's quite another deep question. So who'd like to take that one?
I don't mind starting off.
Yeah, go for it.
I know that me and Hafsa, we were in the same BPTC year, so we were applying pupilages together. And something that we saw together was, so we had around 50 students in our bar course, and the majority that had obtained pupillage during the bar course was predominantly white. And to be fair, it wasn't a massive shock to the system because BAME are underrepresented at the bar. If you see the stats, see the diversity, there is simply not enough Muslim and particularly female barristers at the bar at the moment. But that's not to say that it's impossible. You can do it, and it's just something that you have to continue progressing. You have to continue persevering, and you will get there. But yes, it is difficult, particularly at the bar. I'm not sure on the solicitor side of things, but at the bar, it is exceptionally difficult as a BAME lawyer and as a female to get into the profession. Yes, it is difficult.
Thanks for that, Fatima. Max and Hafsa, do you want to add to any of that?
I'll let Hafsa go first.
All right, I'll just echo what Fatima said, and I think yeah, you definitely feel that sometimes you have to, in a way, when you go for interviews, you feel that you have to, definitely prove yourself, and everyone is in the same boat in that respect. But especially when you are sometimes faced with questions in interviews, just to see how you think on your feet. Like, what would you say if a client decided that they didn't want you to represent them based on their views, but the code of ethics of the bar is that you don't treat anyone differently, and you don't hold it against them if they have that view. You continue to do your job professionally, and I think people will see beyond that. But I definitely think at the preliminary stage sometimes it can be a little bit difficult, and there's been a recent report about that as well. But I think just see it as a strength in terms of being different to the rest of the applicants that are applying. Sometimes you might be the only one there, might be the only hijabi interviewee, and just try and represent that you are able to offer something different in terms of your experiences. Barristers represent all of society, and especially if you're representing someone that is also from a similar background to yours. In the criminal context, it can actually help to have an understanding of what they're going through, especially if it's something that is potentially culturally sensitive. Like I did my master's on prosecuting forced marriage offences, and I definitely brought in insight into the unfortunate cultural undertones that has in certain communities, and how I've seen that with people that I've known, and added that to my critical analysis as a lawyer and a future barrister. And I think talk about that in interviews, you definitely can bring a different perspective on things that people might not have had an understanding of. So I think I try to use that diversity aspect as a strength. And I think if you're confident in that, then people think we do actually need more people like you to join our set. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thanks for that, Hafsa. And I can relate to the industry that I work in. Diversity and inclusion. You can bring qualities with you as well as not fill a quota, for example, but the qualities that the diversity and inclusion background that you have, and you can bring those skills and something that industry looks for. So it's a positive in that sense. So yeah, similar questions about does your Islamic attire and niqab as a barrier to career choice. So there's a theme in those questions. We'll probably change the theme for the next question, which is to Max, I think. Let's have a look. There's quite a few that have come in.
Just one final thing on the niqab aspect.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that there are, I think, one or two. I'm not completely sure, but I will try and find out. But I don't know if you recently saw that one of the first UK hijabi judges was recently appointed. She joins a select few, but she mentioned that she sometimes faced a little bit of a decision about whether she would want to, change any aspect of her identity going into the profession, and she stayed true to her values, and it didn't hold her back. So her name is Rafia Arshad, and she's written a really great piece on that. If you ever want to read up more on it and kind of the obstacles that she faced, I definitely recommend that. But it has been something that's definitely something I'm conscious about. But hopefully that will be some sort of inspiration. She's now a huge judge in the UK as well.
MashaAllah. Yeah, it's really good stuff. I've seen those reports of our first hijabi judge or second. Some people have contested, but anyway, that's another story. Max, I'll come to you about how long it takes to be a barrister. I know you guys are doing your pupillage now, and it's just the route basically, and how long, if someone wants to become a lawyer first and a barrister after.
I think this is the question from Mariam. How many areas of law are there? And then there was one from Nina as well.
Yep, that's the other question. So we'll come back to that one. If that's all right, Fatima?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, go on, Max.
Yeah, so it depends on the route that you take. The traditional route to becoming a barrister, so 3-year law degree, and then you have to do the bar professional training course. I think they've changed that now to the BPC or the BTC, and then you do 1-year pupillage. So pupillage is divided into 2 segments, so 6 months. So the first 6 months you observe, shadow, learn the job that you'll be doing. Second 6 months you're on your feet, off you go. You go and attend hearings as a pupil. If you went down the solicitor route, it's a little bit different. So you do the law degree if you went down the traditional route, then you do the legal practice course, although that's now changing. They're bringing in something known as the SQE exams. And then subsequent to that, you have to do a 2-year training contract. So it's a bit longer for solicitors, whereas with barristers, it's less, more intensive, and it's on the job. So those are the 2 traditional routes. If somebody wants to go down a different route, so for example, if they wanted to study history, English, another different subject, they'd have to do that degree. Then they do what's known as the GDL. So that's, again, a very intensive course. You do that within 1 year, and that's a conversion course effectively to go on and study the bar course or the LPC. So all in all, if you are a barrister, it would take you 5 years. Solicitors, a little bit longer, take 6 years.
Perfect. Nicely summarized, Max. Thank you for that. And Fatima, when you take the question about the different areas of law.
Yeah, I don't mind.
Go for it.
I guess there's plenty. There's enough to see where your interests lie. I guess the main ones that people go into are crime, family, immigration, commercial, and employment. But there's hundreds of different areas of law. There's different niche areas of law. So for example, even if you go into employment, I believe there's more niche areas of law that you can go into from that. When you go into a commercial firm, there's plenty of different areas of law you can go into, whether that's construction, whether that's more contract type law. So there's enough areas of law that you can see what your interests lie, and then just decide for yourself there from there.
Thank you very much. Yes, indeed. Yeah, when I saw the question, I was like, it's a massive area. How many areas of law do you want to look at? Interesting question about studying A-levels again. If someone was to do a psychology A-level, do you think that would be useful and help in, for example, in a law degree, prosecution kind of thing, element? Because you can see how someone's talking and what their traits are.
I did psychology as an A level actually.
Okay.
It didn't really come across at the time, but actually thinking of it now, yeah, I guess some of the things that you do learn during the psychology A level, I guess you do pick up when you're speaking to a client or you're speaking to the defendant, seeing their body language. Yeah, I guess in that sense, you could say you could pick up that are they fabricating their story? Do they have a different alibi? Yeah, there is an inkling. But overall, I think psychology was an amazing A level, and I would, if I had to do it again, I would.
Awesome. That does sound interesting. I'm an engineer, so I can't really even think of how to apply psychology to my profession, but it'll be very good to look at. Questions are coming in. If any of you, the panelists, notice any questions that I've missed, apologies, I've missed some questions because we're looking at time as well as some questions are grouped together because we've already answered it in some answers. So that's been quite helpful from you guys. So questions about particular A levels are coming in. So do universities prefer certain subjects? It doesn't sound like specific subjects are required for law and being a barrister, which is good. Right, so as I touched on, we haven't been able to answer all your questions. What we'll do is hopefully if you've got questions that are burning and you can't ask it here or we haven't answered it here, if you can submit it to us with the MYI website, that would be very handy. We can try and get the answers to you via our panelists. Hopefully, if you don't mind, sorry to put this on you, if some questions are pressing and they haven't been able to answer in this short time scale. So ethical dilemmas have come up again, so we've already answered that. Anything else?
How about the question about overcoming criticism and like specific barriers in terms of well, just general criticism?
Yeah,
I think
go for it.
If you're quite, early on in the career, the one thing that I would say is that when you're asking people for advice, just know that what they say is going to be based on their experience, and don't take just one barrister or solicitor's opinion as the end of as gospel, because people will have different experiences. And I think when I initially started out, if a barrister says something like oh, you should study this particular thing or you should do this, but other barristers might have a completely different opinion. So don't feel too pushed into one certain area. Like, it's good to speak to a lot of people and get their advice, but at the same time, if you have a different perspective, like, it's fine to go with your gut as well. So just say, take advice with a pinch of salt. People have different experiences. In terms of criticism, that it also applies to that too. Sometimes someone can make an offhanded comment. It's not a reflection on that entire profession or that particular set. It could just be that individual on that particular day. So don't hopefully like internalize it and take it personally. Sometimes offhanded comments might be made, but that's just something that I've learned over time, is to not internalize it and reach out and have someone that you can relate to. But also I would encourage you to pursue mentoring. I know Avata mentioned it as well. I'm part of a mentoring scheme, 2 mentoring schemes actually. One is called Empower. I think it's people that are slightly a little bit more senior, but it's Muslim professionals that work in law, health, engineering, other industries. So that's Empower with a capital M. And then also young legal aid lawyers, they have a mentoring scheme, and it is available to students. I'm not sure the age, but I will post a blog post that I wrote about some things that happen with schools. So you can check those out too, and there should be some mentorship opportunities. And that's really good if you encounter any problems, criticism, setbacks, to just speak about it with your mentor as well. And they'll probably say, I encountered the exact same thing, and to not worry about it. So while Todd's going on the next question, I'll just post a link to that post, and you can check out in your own time.
You're on mute.
Sorry. Thanks, Asfa, for doing that, and also being proactive and sending the links on to share on everybody else. We're slowly coming to the end of our session. We'll take a couple of more questions. So this is a question about LPC and SQE, I believe. So some people are asking about the LPC route or wait for the new route to be available. What would you recommend? Shall I go over to Max?
Yeah, so that's something to consider, most definitely. The SQE route, effectively, what they've done is they've made it much more vocational than it is. So you can work in a law firm as a paralegal, effectively for 2 years, and then in your third year you would sit the SQE exam, which effectively means you skip the whole of the LPC. The LPC, I believe, as I understand, is coming to an end anyway. There's a pilot scheme running now. So it just depends. If you're at a stage now where you wish to do the LPC, you then of course have to wait for a training contract. The other route is become a paralegal, do your SQE exam, and then you qualify with a more hands-on approach. So it's individual. I guess if you go down the SQE route, you're earning money and you get to sit the exam at the end. If you go down the LPC route, there's a financial concern there, and of course the concern regarding obtaining a training contract.
Thank you for that, Max. Thanks for doing that, Max. Appreciate it. That's yeah, really good insight there. Because experience on the job while getting paid sounds a bit more attractive. I think sandwich courses for me has always been one of those where, with being in the industry, experience always counts a bit more than just education alone. And I've always kind of valued that and pushed that to people that can do it, that have the opportunity to do it, to pursue the experience first if they can while they're studying, which is quite helpful. I know Fatima selected a few questions she wanted to answer. One's about contact with our panel. I know you guys have social media handles and things like that. I did also mention that we can, any questions that you want answered, we can go through our website, Muslim Youth Initiative. They can submit them separately. But if you can let us know how people can get in contact with you guys and how you can inspire them going forward, that would be really helpful. So start with Fatima first.
I'm more than happy for you to guys follow me on LinkedIn, Fatima Laher. But I've also started a new venture on Instagram. It's called the Barrister Diaries. So do follow me on there because I will be posting just revision tips, what to do at A-levels, and also during university and the bar course. That's the Barrister Diaries. I'll put it into the search. Is it the chat box here?
Please share all the links in the chat. That would be really helpful. I wasn't aware. I mean, I guess what we can use these days is social media a lot, because we didn't have all that nowadays. So we can really use that as a powerful tool. I'm not too savvy on it, sadly, but yeah, it'd be very helpful. And same question for the other two panelists.
Yeah, so LinkedIn is the primary method. So if anybody wants to speak to me, Maxadul Islam, you can find me on there. Any questions that you may have, or if you just Google my name, I'm more than happy for you to send me an email to my Chambers email address. I'll post it in the chat box. I'll post a link to my LinkedIn. So that would be the best method.
Very much. And Hafsa?
Yeah, LinkedIn, it's just my name, Hafsa Hussain. I'll post it in the chat. But I'll also post my email as well. And if you just need some advice about anything, I'm happy to answer it or arrange a call if you're worried about anything. I use Twitter quite a lot as well, but whichever platform you prefer, and I'll post links in my chat function. Yeah.
All right. So the questions are still coming in. Sadly, we're running really short out of time. What I was going to say, I was going to take this couple of minutes to thank our panelists. And thank you for taking out your time. I know you guys are really busy. It was hard to get a hold of some of you. But you're really busy, but I really appreciate it because like we touched on earlier, this is what the whole forum's about, making sure that people get that, experience of what it's like out there in the industry, seeing people like themselves, doing well for themselves, mashallah. And that's the idea of what we're trying to do here, trying to achieve. And we really appreciate you. I know we haven't been able to answer all the questions, but we'll hopefully try and take some of them offline and you can push towards our website. We've got the contact details. I need to add you guys on LinkedIn as well, because I've just been stalking your profile lately and haven't added you. So I'll do that and we can keep in touch. And it's been a great session. Hopefully it's been really helpful for everyone else. We'll be starting our finance session in 5 minutes, inshallah. So after me, while I can go and take a break, finance will start. Those waiting for the finance, please hang on. Please get your questions ready. If you've got any other closing remarks, guys, on the panel, you can say it before you go. But other than that, I'm out from now.
I would just say best of luck to you all. If you do decide to go down the illegal route, it's such a rewarding career. No day is the same, particularly in criminal law. You could be in a murder trial one day and the next could be a simple RTA case. there's just so much breadth of work. There's so many different areas of law. And it's just finding your place in the law, finding where you and your needs and your interests lie. But honestly, it's such a rewarding career. You'll get so much out of it, not just in terms of your skills, but just feeling inside that, you know, I could go home and feel that I've done a good job, and I've helped make our society better. I've played a part in improving the community that we live in. For me, I recommend law to anyone. Good luck.
Good luck, everyone. Get in touch if you need anything, and lovely to virtually meet you all. Take care.
Yeah, I'm just going to close off by saying it's a very, very it's a very lucrative profession, and that's something I guess we haven't covered. But it's a lucrative profession. It's incredibly satisfying when you get the right result for your client, and there's no feeling like it. And you might see that there's barriers in place. There are no barriers. Everybody's unique. You're all special, and if you have the right academics, you've got the right skills. You know, if you want to be a barrister, public speaking skills is of course of paramount importance. Equally, if your English written skills, auditory skills are good, this is the profession for you. And don't let anybody say you can't do it, because you absolutely can. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for listening to all of us.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Max. It's been amazing. It's been really, really good. Thank you for all your time. Really appreciate it. We'll hand over to the next segment now, and I'll let you guys get on your way and enjoy your day. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Take care.
Assalamualaikum.
Welcome, salam.
Yeah, 4 minutes for the next segment. Get ready. No, I'm on mute.